basically run by these corporations. You know what I'm saying? They're the ones who's writing
Hmm.
legislation. They're the ones who lobby for whatever. Pinch. It's the squeeze, and it's like what she was saying, because you become more complacent when you are on the hamster wheel and you just making ends meet every month. You can't fight against nothing. You can't try to build anything. And then you get to a point where if the next step is to make you more reliant, even more reliant on the government by giving you some kind of regular check or something. and
It
and now whatever they decide to do, you rolling with it because you want to keep on getting that check.
well, and it's also like they also disguise, the ease of, how easy this thing will be, how happy you will be. You know what? We're just gonna make a universal income for you, and that's nothing you have to worry about. But then when they knocking at your door, why the hell you not at work and whooping your ass because you're not at work or whatever it is? Oh, that's just a cold. Shut the hell up and get your ass out there to work. Like people really need to wake the hell up.
Because, and I've been saying this for the longest, it's a slippery slope, and we'll look up and we'll be living in Mussolini's
Well,
Italy right here in the
well,
United States.
well. That's really like that's what the plan is, and like I said, it's not too late. We can change all this stuff, but the people, the lazy ass people of our country that want the easy way to get everything done, because freedom ain't free. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, regardless of what you want to say, like that's something that you establish and you work for. You continually work to keep your freedom. So, do you want to, you want the freedom that what's something's getting louder and louder in my ear. But, however, people claim to want that freedom, but every time that they allow the government to just do something that's supposed to be just them looking out for you, because I mean, as much as I agree, a lot of people needed the what, what was that the
The
money they was giving
stimulus.
away. Yeah, the stimulus money. I'm sure it helped a lot of people, but it also ruined a bunch of people at the same time. Simultaneously, it was helping, but I think it damaged more than it helped, because these are things that would, because I mean, like I said, your devalue, every time, it's a supply and demand in every part of the market. So when there's more supply, there's less demand. Man, I'm trying to deal with the volumes. Your mic
My
is
bad. Let me play some more of this. I'm gonna try to get this
everything.
straight.
This was true also for the 30s.
I think this is such an important point, because I think so often in the public imagination, when we're talking about state ownership of businesses, it is conceived of in this kind of authoritarian context, and a lot of people think, well, what guarantee do I have that the kind of nationalization that sometimes democratic socialists in the United States will talk about is actually going to yield benefits for the workers instead of simply concentrating power in the hands of corporate elites? And I think that's where I think the left needs to do a better job of talking about worker ownership as opposed to as kind of a corporatized state ownership that can be just as coercive and exploitative as private ownership. So can you help us understand what the kind of alternatives to kind of austerity were emerging in Italy and perhaps in other places around the world that fascist authoritarians were trying to undermine, so that the workers didn't have as much autonomy and control to push back against these authoritarian regimes?
Thank you. Yes. First of all, I really want to stress what you just said, which is the fact that it's the dominant narrative tries to show that the alternative to capitalism was a non-alternative. I was just mentioned by Martin Wolf as one of the best books in 2022 on the Financial Times. And what you see is that he ends by saying, yes, but the idea that there can be an alternative fascism an alternative to capitalism that doesn't end up in dictatorship and stagnation is an impossibility. So the idea of the end of history, the idea that we are in the best of possible world, is clearly something that restricts our imagination for the possible. And of course, calling the current Chinese government communist, remembering the USSR as the communist alternative, this all helps create the understanding that there is nothing better that we can do except for current status quo capitalism.
I think that's really good point.
There's more people that won't do anything different because they're trying to capture all of the power for themselves. Because
but we're sold on it, though. We're sold on that capitalism, in its present form, is the best that we can get. That we can't do no better.
No. Well, because are you trying to say that capitalism is bad? Because I think that capitalism is good. It's just that it's been directed in a way to where it's not beneficial the way it should be. Because I mean, if we go back in time when it wasn't like worldwide. Like I mean, we still had like let's just say like there was hometown grocery stores that was owned by the guy that you knew, and let's just say somebody else had the movie. Just think about Tulsa, and you really think about how Tulsa was growing up. They had barbershops, they had banks, they had and it was all owned by people in that one city, and it was prosperous because everybody can come spend money with each other, and it kind of just had a circulation of that energy. So if we did that, not just within a city, if we do it, start grow it into the statewide or into where because
but you see, she's saying
if there's more ownership by the people, that we do better.
Yeah,
instead of allowing one person monopolizing all these industries, it gets worse and worse.
I think worker co-ops is a perfect balance for that, and I think that you're making an argument for worker co-ops, and I be arguing for them all the time. But one of the things is like what she was saying is, in our imagination, we can't even think outside of, that there could be alternatives to capitalism, our system of capitalism, the way we do it. We don't even have, and that's the dominant narrative, is that's the best that you could get,
Well, see, my thing is, because if you don't have a form, now, are we saying, I'm not arguing that the current style of capitalism that we've been practicing is the best way, but another form of capitalism can be prosperous for the people.
Yeah, but what about some other system all the way different from capitalism?
Like what? Because anything different than that is you're in slavery.
So that's what she's saying, that we can't even imagine a system outside of capitalism. Just like what you're saying, she said it would lead to people saying that it's going to lead to.
No, she's not. She's
communism.
Saying that
she just said that.
She's saying, but no, what she's saying is the form of capitalism, not it in itself. That the form of capitalism can be different. I mean, we can back it up.
Yeah, let's back it up. But what I'm saying is, there could be alternatives to capitalism, but we can't even begin to think that way because we're so brainwashed in the idea that capitalism is the best that you're going to have, and that if
Yeah,
any other system is going to lead to slavery.
and for the lazy, the alternative is just for you to accept money from the government, which that doesn't work either. I mean, we know that about like with Haiti. Like, I mean, the reason why like after the 1804, after they won, everybody's thinking that they're gonna be able to put their feet up. No, you work more now.
Yeah, but it's not about not working. It's about who
For a lot
owns
of
the
people,
means of.
but in a lot of people's minds, that's what they think when when it's like, okay, this government, when they're sold this idea about government universal income, and it's like, oh, I can just get a check. You mean tell me like I could do like the because I mean you think about the I hate to even really symbolize it that way, but the hood queen, the the back road hillbillies that getting a check and they can like just kind of do what they've been doing without doing much.
That's not the only. That's not the system. Like I was saying, worker co-op would be an example. It's about who owns the means of production. It's about the distribution of the wealth. You know what I'm saying? Um, the value of work.
Yes, but do, do you not think that like having a sense of ownership is still, because I mean overall, like, okay, you saying a redistribution of the wealth, yes, it would be, but just not going all into one or a few people's hands. It's a like the ownership. That's what she was talking about, the autonomous. When she used that word autonomous, that's you being able to control your own destiny.
All right, let me play some.
He ends by saying, yes, but the idea that there can be an alternative fascism an alternative to capitalism that doesn't end up in dictatorship and stagnation is an impossibility. So the idea of the end of history, the idea that we are in the best of possible world, is clearly something that restricts our imagination for the possible. And of course, calling the current Chinese government communist, remembering the USSR as the communist alternative, this all helps create the understanding that there is nothing better that we can do except for current status quo capitalism. So actually what you see, if you look at what was happening historically after the First World War, so 1919, 1920, were years of great experimentation with democratic alternatives that were actually coming from below, that were non-state, were actually opposed to the state just as much as to the capitalist market, because the idea was that under capitalism, the state is, how the British shop stewards put it, a servile state. And helps actually exploit the population. So after the First World War, a variety of alternatives emerged, which the Capital Order describes in the first part of the book. And the intention of describing these alternatives is to give insights for present practices. One of the important ones were, for example, the workers' council movements. The idea that in order to become all collectively producers and go beyond the class differences in society, we had to organize production democratically through councils, through assemblies, and also distribution. This was true not only in industries, but also in the countryside, where peasants actually occupied land and decided to manage them collectively. Mm-hmm. Then we had the case of the Guild Socialists in Britain that were very successful in producing for use rather than profit, and abolishing wage relations. And also the cooperative movement was quite widespread. So all alternatives that are claiming the central agency of workers and participation in decision-making. And of course, today, given the heterogeneity of the working classes, we would have to think of councils that could be also neighborhood councils, something that, by the way, is happening, for example, in Chile, in other places of the world. Alternatives to capitalism are present. They are there. They're just never spoken of because, in a way, they go against what is fruitful for the dominant ideology.